Well, currently, climate change, according to the latest report from the International Panel on Climate Change, which is the foremost technical body of the UN responsible for scientific analysis of climate change and its impacts, states that Africa is going to be the most affected continent in terms of climate change. And all over the continent, we are starting to see the effects of climate change, especially within poor and vulnerable groups. So we're looking at the agricultural sector, which is going to be one of the hardest hit sectors when it comes to climate change. You can take the issue of Lake Chad. Lake Chad used to be one of the biggest water bodies in Africa, but currently, as we speak, Lake Chad is just 10% of what it used to be back in the 1960s. Lake Chad's original size was almost the size of Burundi, but currently only 10% of that is existing, and that is likely to bring about conflicts, is going to bring about migration and misplaced people all across the continent. So climate change certainly is going to be a very big issue when it comes to Africa. And that's why at the continental level, at the national level, and within the regions, countries are putting their acts together to be able to combat the effects of climate change.
Now, when you talk about the fact that Africa, is going to be most affected, my question is, what do you think is going to worsen the situation? Is it something the continent just has to wait back and watch as it happens? Or do you think it's something that can be stopped in its tracks? How will this play out?
Well, certainly climate change is here, and we need to put our acts together to combat climate change. We cannot wait till the effects start unfolding at a very rapid pace. And a lot of is being done currently at all levels. And for us to be able to move to the stage where we reduce the impact of climate change, adaptation to climate change is key and it's very important for Africa. If you listen to what the heads of states have said, what the African ministers of environment have said, they have placed climate change adaptation as a very, very important component of combating climate change. On the continent, a lot of things are currently going on. For instance, you look at agriculture. There is what is referred to as climate smart agriculture. This is an approach in agriculture where mechanisms, measures, activities are put in place to address the issue of climate change at the agricultural productivity level, as well as along the whole agriculture value chain. Soil management, water sustainability, all of these issues, forest restoration, all of these things are going on to ensure that Africa does not keep losing out to the effects of climate change. You can take, for instance, the issue of electricity generation. A lot of African countries are very much reliant on hydropower. Climate change is affecting hydropower generation due to the fact that water levels are dropping significantly in most areas. In Ghana, for instance, there was a shortage of water at the main hydropower producing station, and that led to almost 4 years of reduction in power supply in that country. So it gives a rippling effect across all sectors of the economy, and African countries are trying to tackle this. And if you look at the Paris Agreement, for instance, a lot of African countries committed themselves to what is referred to as the nationally determined contributions. These are contributions that countries have pledged to do to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, as well as adapt to the changing effects of climate. And a lot of issues, a lot of sectors the African countries have put forward.
Kwame, we're going to be talking about some of these initiatives as the interview goes on, but let's just begin to break them down, just one after the other. I was going to ask you to talk us through the AU NEPAD Agriculture Climate Change Program. But before we talk about that, I know on the 17th of June,